September 12, 1976. The Beverly Hills Hotel's Crystal Ballroom, the Golden Globe Awards after-party was in full swing when rising star Bradford Sterling, flush with success from his latest romantic drama, spotted Clint Eastwood near the bar and decided to make what he thought would be a clever joke at the Western legend's expense. "Well, well," Sterling announced loudly enough for nearby conversations to stop, "if it isn't Hollywood's favorite cowboy, tell me, Clint, when are you going to try real acting instead of just squinting and shooting people?" What happened next would become one of the most devastating displays of quiet authority in Hollywood history, as America's most legendary tough guy proved that some insults create opportunities for unforgettable lessons in respect. Bradford Sterling was 28 years old and had appeared in 3 successful romantic comedies that had made him a heartthrob with teenage audiences. He had been nominated for a Golden Globe that evening and was riding high on what he believed was his superior acting ability compared to genre actors like Clint Eastwood. Bradford was incredibly talented but completely arrogant, recalled former agent Sue Mengers. He thought his classical training and romantic lead roles made him a more serious actor than anyone who had worked in westerns or action films. Sterling had been drinking champagne for most of the evening and had been holding court with a group of young actors, making jokes about old Hollywood and actors he considered beneath his artistic standards. Bradford loved to mock established stars in front of people he was trying to impress, explained former publicist Pat Kingsley. He thought it made him look sophisticated and intellectually superior. The insult that would end Sterling's career was delivered in front of a crowd that included major directors, producers, and fellow actors who had all stopped their conversations to watch this confrontation. "Come on, Clint," Sterling continued, emboldened by what he mistook for an audience. "Squinting, drawling, and shooting bad guys isn't exactly Shakespearean complexity. When are you going to challenge yourself with something that requires actual emotional range?" The ballroom had gone noticeably quieter, with industry veterans understanding that Sterling was making a catastrophic mistake. Clint, who had been having a quiet conversation with director Don Siegel, turned slowly to face Sterling with the measured calm that had made him legendary both on and off screen. "Bradford," Clint said quietly, his voice carrying easily across the now silent area around them, "I want to make sure I understand what you're saying." Sterling, interpreting Clint's calm tone as weakness, doubled down on his attack. "I'm saying that anyone can point a gun and look tough. Real acting requires vulnerability, complexity, emotional depth. Things you learn in actual acting classes, not on horseback." What Clint said next would be quoted in Hollywood circles for decades. "Bradford, you've made an interesting point about emotional complexity. Let me ask you something. In your 3 films, have you ever had to convey lost determination, moral conflict, and quiet strength without speaking? Have you ever had to tell an entire story with nothing but your eyes and your presence?" Sterling, not understanding where this was going, smirked. "That's exactly my point, Clint. Real actors use words, dialogue, emotional expression. I see. And in your films, when you're delivering those words and emotional expressions, how many people are you responsible for? Just yourself, or an entire cast and crew whose jobs depend on whether you can carry a film?" The question hung in the air as Sterling began to realize this wasn't going the way he had planned. "When you're shooting your romantic scenes," Clint continued with relentless precision, "are you also directing the film, managing a multi-million-dollar budget, coordinating with stunt coordinators, animal trainers, and special effects teams while ensuring that 200 cast and crew members complete their work safely and on schedule?" The crowd around them was growing larger as word spread that something significant was happening, because Bradford, what you call just squinting and shooting people's, actually involves creating entire worlds, developing characters with screenwriters, directing other actors, managing complex productions, and doing most of my own stunts because I believe audiences deserve authenticity. Sterling's face was beginning to redden as he realized he was being systematically dismantled. And as for emotional range, Clint's voice remained calm but carried unmistakable authority. "I'm curious about your understanding of the emotional complexity required to portray someone who has seen combat, who carries the weight of difficult decisions, who protects others while questioning the cost of violence. Have you studied what it means to convey the psychology of someone who chooses to be a protector in a world that doesn't always deserve protection?" Or do you think emotional depth only exists in scripts about relationship problems and family drama? The devastating precision of Clint's response was becoming clear to everyone listening. You see, Bradford, what you mistake for simplicity is actually discipline. What you call squinting is the result of understanding that sometimes the most powerful performances come from what you don't do, not from what you do. Sterling tried to interrupt, but Clint continued without raising his voice. And what you describe as just shooting peoples represents the culmination of American mythology, the exploration of justice and moral ambiguity, and the creation of characters who have influenced global cinema for decades. What came next would haunt Sterling for the rest of his career. But most importantly, Bradford, what you've revealed tonight isn't anything about my acting, it's everything about your character. The silence in the ballroom was complete. You've shown everyone here that you think success gives you the right to publicly humiliate colleagues who have been working in this industry since before you were born. You've demonstrated that you confuse arrogance with confidence and cruelty with cleverness. Sterling was now clearly regretting his decision to start this conversation, but Clint wasn't finished. You came to this party representing yourself as a professional actor. Instead, you've revealed yourself to be someone who attacks others to make himself feel superior. That's not acting, Bradford. That's just insecurity disguised as sophistication. The final blow was delivered with the same quiet intensity that had made Clint legendary. So to answer your question about when I'm going to try real acting, I've been doing real acting for 15 years, creating characters that people remember decades later, while building a career based on professionalism and respect for the craft. The question, Bradford, is when you're going to try real character, because talent without character is worthless, and tonight you've shown everyone here exactly what kind of person you are when you think you can attack someone without consequences. As Clint walked away, leaving Sterling standing alone in front of a crowd of industry professionals who had just witnessed his complete humiliation, the damage to the young actor's reputation was immediate and devastating. You could see it on people's faces, recalled actress Sally Field, who was at the party that night. Everyone understood that Bradford had just destroyed his own career by attacking someone who was universally respected. Within days, the story of Sterling's public humiliation had spread throughout Hollywood. But more than just gossip, it became a cautionary tale about professionalism and respect in the entertainment industry. Bradford's career never recovered, observed entertainment journalist Army Archard. Directors and producers who had been considering him for projects suddenly found other actors who were better fits. The consequences extended beyond just losing roles. Sterling's reputation as someone who would attack colleagues publicly made him unemployable in an industry that depended on collaboration and mutual respect. Nobody wanted to work with an actor who would humiliate other professionals at public events, explained former casting director Marion Duggarty. It showed a fundamental lack of character that made him too risky to hire. Sterling tried to salvage his career by issuing a public apology, but the damage was done. His apology felt hollow because everyone knew it was motivated by career damage, not genuine remorse, noted former publicist Rogers and Cowan's Warren Cowan. Meanwhile, Clint's handling of the situation enhanced his reputation as someone who could maintain dignity while defending himself against unprovoked attacks. What Clint did that night was masterful, observed director George Stevens Jr. He showed that real strength isn't about responding to insults with aggression, it's about responding with such intelligence and dignity that the attacker destroys himself. The incident also became a teaching moment throughout Hollywood about how to handle professional conflicts. Film schools started using the Sterling incident as an example of how not to behave in the entertainment industry, explained USC cinema professor Drew Casper. But perhaps the most lasting impact was on the way young actors approached established stars. After what happened to Bradford Sterling, nobody wanted to be caught disrespecting industry veterans, recalled former talent agent Mike Ovitz. It showed that attacking respected figures would have real professional consequences. Sterling's career continued to decline until he eventually left Hollywood entirely, working as a drama teacher at a community college in Oregon. In contrast, Clint Eastwood's career continued to flourish, with his reputation for professionalism and dignity becoming as legendary as his film performances. Years later, When asked about the Sterling incident, Clint's response revealed both his philosophy and his character. Bradford Sterling was a talented young actor who made the mistake of thinking that insulting others would make him appear more impressive. What he learned too late is that real impression comes from real achievement, not from tearing down people who have already achieved. I didn't destroy his career that night. He destroyed it himself by revealing who he really was when he thought he could attack someone without consequences. September 12, 1976. A rising star thought he could build his reputation by attacking a legend's career and dignity. Instead, he destroyed his own reputation so completely that he left Hollywood forever, while the legend he attacked continued to create the iconic films that define American cinema. Bradford Sterling learned too late that some people earn their legendary status through decades of professional excellence, while others lose their promising futures through moments of professional foolishness. The difference between the two was revealed in how they handled one conversation at a Golden Globe after party. One man used words to build himself up by tearing others down. The other used words to reveal truth about character, respect, and the cost of cruelty. The man who attacked left Hollywood in disgrace. The man who defended himself with dignity went on to direct and star in some of the greatest films ever made. The lesson was simple: in Hollywood as in life, how you treat people reveals everything about who you are, and who you are determines what you become. Bradford Sterling became a cautionary tale. Clint Eastwood became an icon. The choice between those destinies was made in a few minutes of conversation that revealed years of character, or, in Sterling's case, the lack of it. Some people think success means you can treat others however you want. Others understand that success means treating others with the respect you hope to receive. One approach leads to temporary fame and permanent disgrace. The other leads to lasting respect and legendary status. Bradford Sterling chose wrong. Clint Eastwood chose right. And Hollywood learned the difference between the two, a difference that was measured not in box office receipts or award nominations, but in the simple question of whether you build your career by lifting others up or tearing them down. Sterling chose to tear down. Clint chose to stand up, for dignity, for professionalism, for the idea that respect is earned through character, not demanded through cruelty. September 12, 1976. The night Hollywood learned that some legends become legends not just because of what they create on screen, but because of who they are when the cameras stop rolling. And some promising careers end not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of character. The cameras weren't rolling that night in the Crystal Ballroom, but character was still being revealed, and judgment was still being passed, by an industry that remembered everything, especially who treated legends with respect, and who didn't. Bradford Sterling found out which category he belonged in, too late to change it, but just in time to understand why character matters more than talent, why respect matters more than recognition, and why some mistakes can't be undone. No matter how sorry you are afterward, some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Bradford Sterling learned his lesson the hardest way possible, in front of everyone who mattered. In an industry that never forgets, about someone who never forgave professional disrespect, especially when it was disguised as sophistication. Clint Eastwood saw through the disguise and revealed what was underneath. Nothing worthy of respect, or career survival, or second chances. Some people get one chance to show who they really are. Bradford Sterling used his chance to show everyone exactly who he wasn't: a professional, a gentleman, or someone worthy of sharing the same stage as a legend. He learned the difference too late, but he learned it completely, as did everyone watching, who understood that night why some people become legends, and others become warnings, about what happens when you confuse temporary success with permanent license to be cruel. The license gets revoked, the success disappears, and the cruelty is all that's remembered, forever. That's what Bradford Sterling learned on September 12, 1976, in front of everyone, from someone who didn't need to destroy him. He destroyed himself. Clint just made sure everyone understood what had happened, and why, and what it meant for anyone else who might be tempted to make the same mistake. Don't. The legend is watching, and the legend remembers everything, especially disrespect, which gets repaid with interest in front of everyone who matters, until nothing matters anymore, except the lesson, which lasts forever, like legends. Unlike careers built on cruelty, which end quickly and completely, like Bradford Sterling's did, on September 12, 1976, the night he learned the difference between being a star and being a legend, and why only one of those lasts, when character matters, which is always, especially in Hollywood, where everyone is watching, and everyone remembers everything.